1. The Bullet's Truth. Chung Ling Soo was one of the most famous magicians of his time, an American named William Robinson, who masqueraded as a mysterious Chinese conjurer. His signature illusion was the condemned to death by the boxers trick, where he would appear to catch two marked bullets, fired simultaneously by assistants, on a ceramic plate. On the night of March 23, 1918, performing to a packed house in London, the trick began as usual. Two assistants aimed their rifles, but due to a faulty cleaning rod, a live round was not just fired, but propelled with lethal force. The bullet struck Robinson in the chest. He collapsed to the stage, breaking character for the first and last time, exclaiming, "Oh my God, something's happened. Lower the curtain." He died the next morning. The man who caught bullets finally stopped by one. 2. Concrete Grave. The Amazing Joe. Burris was an amateur escape artist with a dream of outdoing his idol, Harry Houdini. On Halloween night in 1990, he planned his most ambitious stunt, being handcuffed, chained, and locked in a coffin, which would then be lowered into a 7-foot-deep grave and covered with tons of wet cement. He was confident he could escape. The event was televised by a local news crew. As the coffin was lowered, the problems began. The weight of the first load of cement was far greater than he had anticipated. The coffin's lid began to crack under the immense pressure. Before he could even begin his escape, the sheer weight of the concrete and dirt caused the coffin to implode, crushing him instantly. The audience watched in horror as the grave became a tomb, a live broadcast capturing the final, fatal failure of his lifelong dream. 3. The King's Last Bow. The great Lafayette, born Sigmund Neuberger, was the highest-paid magician of his era, known for his lavish productions. On May 9, 1911, during a performance in Edinburgh, his signature illusion, the Lion's Bride, went horribly wrong. An on-stage lamp malfunctioned, igniting the elaborate flammable set. The fire spread with terrifying speed. Lafayette initially escaped, but bravely ran back into the inferno to help evacuate the animals used in his act. The safety curtain, meant to protect the audience, was lowered, trapping him and his crew on the burning stage. In the aftermath, his charred body was found and taken to be cremated. In a final, grim illusion, another identical body was found in the wreckage. It was his body double. The first body was that of the real Great Lafayette. 10 other people, including his double, also perished in the blaze. 4. The Milk Can Secret Royden. Genesta was a renowned escape artist who specialized in Houdini-esque stunts. One of his most popular tricks was the milk can escape, where he would be sealed inside a large, water-filled can from which he had to escape before drowning. He had performed the trick countless times. On November 17, 1930, during a performance in Frankfurt, Germany, something went wrong. He was locked inside the can, and the curtains were drawn. The seconds ticked by, turning into minutes, far longer than the escape should have taken. His wife and assistant, watching from the wings, grew frantic. They rushed to the stage and, with the help of stagehands, forced the can open. They pulled Genesta out, but he was unconscious. He had suffered a heart attack while submerged, a tragic medical event at the worst possible moment. He was pronounced dead, trapped not by the lock, but by his own failing body. 5. The Fatal Encore. Black Herman, born Benjamin Rucker, was one of America's most famous African-American magicians, known for his buried-alive stunt and his charismatic stage presence. He would often end his show by appearing to fall into a deep, death-like trance, from which he would be resurrected a few days later. In April 1934, during a performance in Louisville, Kentucky, he clutched his chest and collapsed on stage. The audience, accustomed to his dramatic flair, believed it was all part of the act. They applauded the convincing performance as the curtain was lowered, but backstage, it was clear this was no illusion. Black Herman had suffered a massive heart attack. So profound was the belief in his act that his promoter had to display his body at a funeral home to convince the public and ticket holders for his resurrection that the great magician was truly gone. 6. The Speeding Car. Yeswari Charles Rowan, who performed under the stage name Car the Mysterious, was a South African escape artist known for his death-defying stunts. In the spring of 1930, he was touring small towns, performing a particularly dangerous escape. He would be tightly bound in a straitjacket while a car, driven by his assistant, sped towards him from 200 yards away. He had to escape the jacket and move out of the way before being struck. He had performed the trick successfully many times, but on this day, in front of a crowd that included many children, his timing was off. He struggled with the straitjacket's buckles longer than usual, underestimating the speed of the approaching car. The vehicle bore down on him as he fought to free his arms. The crowd's cheers turned to screams as the car struck him at full force, killing him instantly. 7. The final punch. Harry Houdini, the world's most famous escape artist, did not die during a trick, but his death was a direct result of his performance persona. He prided himself on his physical strength and often claimed he could withstand any punch to the abdomen. On October 22, 1926, while backstage at a theater in Montreal, a college student and amateur boxer approached Houdini and asked if the claim was true. Before Houdini could properly brace himself, the student delivered several powerful, unexpected blows to his stomach. Houdini, already suffering from what was likely appendicitis, brushed off the intense pain and continued to perform for several more days. The punches, however, had ruptured his appendix. Peritonitis set in, and on Halloween, 9 days after the dressing room assault, the man who had escaped every conceivable trap died in a Detroit hospital. 8. The Tiger's Embrace. For decades, Siegfried and Roy were the kings of the Las Vegas Strip, mesmerizing audiences with their spectacular illusions involving rare white tigers. On October 3, 2003, during a live performance at the Mirage, the magic turned into a nightmare. Roy Horn was on stage with a 7-year-old white tiger named Manticore. For reasons still debated, the 400-pound animal suddenly became aggressive. It lunged at Roy, biting his arm and then his neck. The horrified audience watched as the tiger dragged the legendary performer off stage like a rag doll. The attack severed his spine, caused massive blood loss, and a stroke. Though he miraculously survived, the incident ended his career and left him partially paralyzed for the rest of his life. The mauling was a brutal, live reminder that the wild animals at the heart of their act were not props, but powerful predators. 9. The Razor's Edge. Dr. Vivian Hensley was an Australian dentist and amateur magician. In July 1938, he was performing for his young son at their home in Queensland. One of his favorite tricks was the swallowing a rusty razor blade illusion, where he would appear to place a blade in his mouth and make it vanish. The trick relied on palming the object and misdirection. On this day, as he performed the trick, something caused him to stumble or cough. In a fatal slip, he accidentally dropped the razor blade he was concealing in his mouth down his own throat. He was rushed to the hospital, where X-rays confirmed the blade was lodged in his stomach. Despite 2 complex and painful operations to remove it, severe internal injuries and infection set in. After 4 agonizing days, Dr. Hensley died, a victim of a bizarre and gruesome accident during a simple sleight of hand. 10. The Second Death. Washington Irving Bishop was a famous mentalist and mind reader in the late 19th century. His act often culminated with him falling into a cataleptic state, a trance-like condition where he appeared to be dead. On May 12, 1889, during a performance at the Lambs Club in New York City, he collapsed on stage after a particularly intense routine. Believing it was his usual trance, he was carried to a nearby bedroom to recover. A short time later, he was pronounced dead from hysterocatalepsy. However, Bishop had a morbid fear of being buried alive due to his condition and always carried a note in his pocket forbidding any autopsy until he had been dead for at least 48 hours. Tragically, the note was not found. 3 doctors, eager to study his brain, performed an autopsy just hours after his death, removing his brain. It was later argued that he may have still been alive, in his deep trance, and that the autopsy itself was the true cause of death.